and this is important to see, not because it ceases to be, but because the medium of expression of the electricity is missing. There's no other appliance that it can express itself with. So these are the 5 fundamental distinctions between the functioning of the appliance and the electricity. This being the case, as we have already started to do, you can now replace the following. The same concepts would apply if the appliance is replaced by anatma. And anatma has the physical body, sthula sharira, or the subtle body, which is sukshma sharira. So in a way, it is the sthula sharira, the physical body is like hardware. Subtle body is like software. You need software to be expressed through hardware. But you need the software for the hardware to do anything. So similarly, but both of them are matter. One is a subtle matter, the other one is a non-subtle matter, but both of them are matter. Both of them are anatma. And so the human body, which elsewhere we can find all the details, I'm just going to give you a summary of it, has all these layers. So the human or any other living being, but we are talking about human beings. So these are the outer layer, which is the body. Then you have, so this is called the physical body. Then the next level is the physiology of the body. And so this is what is called pranamaya kosha. So prana means the physiology that gives life to the body. And so most important one is a functioning lung system that can import oxygen, spread it around the whole body, and take out the carbon dioxide away from the body. This is what constitutes prana. And then you have, so this is what is called pranamaya kosha, the outside body, then the physiology. And the physiology has different functions, 5 or 6 different functions. One of them is breathing. One of them is digestion. One of them is circulation, etc., etc. So that is all the physiology of the body. Then you have the ability to think, thoughts, mind. Then a greater aspect of the mind is intellect, the ability to know, to be certain, to be sure. So now you know English, so it's not your mind. Your knowledge of English has gone into a knowledge. I know English. You may have some words that you may not know, but you basically know English. or you may not know some other language. So similarly, for example, the mind would be, did I lock my door? Maybe I didn't. This is the mind. When somebody else says, I did it. Sure. So one is then the Annamaya Kosha outside, then the second one is the Pranamaya Kosha, which is the physiology. Then you have mental, so Manomaya Kosha. Then you have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, which is knowledge, intellect. And the final one is Anandamaya Kosha. And Anandamaya Kosha is a sense of happiness or a sense of lack of happiness. This is also a part of the Anatma. So this is exactly so this is what is called experiential me. I experience the outside and I also reflect it in terms of what my own thinking is. All of this is Anatma. And I forgot about the sense organs. Eyes, ears, nose, etc. It'll come in a minute, in different things. But anyway, this entire set is called Anatma. So now you can go through this earlier analysis of electricity in appliance and replace the appliance by Anatma. And you can replace the electricity by Atma. So now you can almost go back here and redo this chart. My body, mind, sense organ, hardware, software, appliance is an appliance. My Atma is not a product of my body, mind, sense organs, and a sense of happiness, experiential set of happiness. I am something different from that. Just like electricity is different from the appliance, I am also different from my body, mind. Then it is an independent entity. The appliance might say, do you know English? I know English is an appliance. Just look at this. Just pay attention to this part of it. When I say I know English and I don't know Russian, my knowledge of English is an appliance. My ignorance of Russian is also an appliance. But I know is the electricity. I know that I know English. I know that I'm ignorant of Russian. But common to both the knowledge of English and the ignorance of Russian is I know. I know. I know is irreplaceable. It is above anything else. So I know, this is what is called, in fact it's very interesting, this word Parama. Parama Atma. Paramatma. So this word para or parama, they're the same, refers to the fact what remains after everything else is gone. ultimate reality when all the relative realities have gone. So in this example of I know English and I don't know Russian, this is a good example to see. So there, my knowledge of English is the appliance. And it is not parama. Because at one time I did not know English. And my ignorance of Russian also is an appliance because it is not useful to me. But overlaying both of them at a higher level is I know. And the I know never leaves. Never leaves. And so in that sense, I know is not a product or part or the quality of knowing what. You know, like somebody says, I know. So you say, what do you mean by you know? You know what? You can always say, it doesn't matter, whatever it is, I know. Yes, it's more understandable if you say, I know this, I don't know that, and so on. And this is the interesting thing, that my whole focus, this is the interesting thing to see. Vedanta says it is so obvious that you take it, that you're not even aware of the fact what a power you have. You are, you know, and you're Ananda, Satchit Ananda. This is a very big thing, but I ignore it. Oh, I know, I don't know this, I don't know that, I'm not happy. We'll do the same analysis for happiness sometime. It's really a question of overlooking the obvious. Overlooking the obvious. Just, it's a very obvious thing, and we just don't even think about it. The most important thing is my own nature, which is obvious, but I don't get it. Anyways, just going back to this, let's finish this. So replace electricity by Atma and the appliance by the Anatma. Then the next one is that Atma is an independent entity which pervades and enlivens my body, mind, and intellect. And here, one other side comment to this we will study it perhaps, hopefully in the future sometime. There are stages to this understanding. You see, this is where we can differ with the electricity, which is also a developed product from the Atma, which is not a developed product. It is the very stuff of the whole creation. And so, what it really means is that one of the difficulties of understanding the self is that it is always present. You see, just look at this. This goes back to the objectivity. One of the things that can be objectified cannot be objectified. The way we apply a filter is to find out whether the thing is there or not. Like you can say that, is a person here? By the way, I forgot to bring my attendance sheet. I'll have to get a new one done next week. So we can say, is a person there? Well, you say, no, I didn't see him there. So you can objectify it and not objectify it. Was he there this week? No, I was not there last week. Next week I'll be there. Fine. You cannot do this with the Atma. Because this is how we measure the presence of things. We measure, was it visible or not visible? No, not visible. So it's not there. Not true for the Atma. In fact, this is a difficulty. It is always there. So much always there that I ignore it. Funny situation. So anyway, it is an independent entity that. Oh yeah, no, I was going to tell you something, then I didn't complete that thought. So they say that there are stages to the understanding. So one stage is, the first stage is, which we are doing now, is that the Atma is different from my body-mind complex. Right? This is what we are studying. Number one. So that means that my Atma is the one that is enlivening and endorsing all of the things, but is independent. Then the next stage is that there is no difference between my Atma and your Atma. Like there can be in electricity. You know, the Indians develop their own electricity, the Americans develop their own electricity, sources are different and so on. It's not true for the Atma. There is no Indian Atma versus American Atma. It's Atma. This is Ishvara, common to everyone. So the second stage is, so the first stage again is that I am separate from my body. The second stage is to understand, my goodness, everybody else's Atma is separate from their body, and that means that it is the same as mine. The third stage is, which is what we really need to reach. If that is the case, that I am the truth of the whole universe. Me, my Atma. And I can say that same thing about you. It's not as though I am somebody really special. This guy is sitting there saying, I am the very, everybody else is just sitting there saying, oh, what a wonderful person he is. Wow. Each one of us can say, we are the very foundation of the whole universe, which is the truth. This is where we have to, this is how difficult it is to convince our own mind. We have such a low opinion about ourselves that we cannot even begin to understand what our truth is. So this has to be done in stages. It takes a while for us to educate ourselves and mind and so on. Anyway, so we're coming to the end. I want to just finish this. So then you can apply this this analysis to each one of them. Again, I am not limited. You can even say this. You can write it to yourself. I am not limited by my body-mind complex. I will continue to exist even after my body-mind complex collapses. And number 5, even though I will be there, you will not be able to look at yourself in a mirror and say, that's me. You are, even though you are not visible. It's just like, supposing you are standing in front of a mirror and you are admiring yourself. Ah, good, I look good today. Wonderful. Then the mirror breaks or something. It's covered. Do you disappear? Your reflection disappears, but you don't disappear. The same thing is true for the Atma. Even though the medium of expression goes, I'm still there. So this is the analogy of the Atma Anatma Viveka that happens. So I have to make a decision whether I want to start to the next level. Probably not. I think what I will do is stop here and perhaps invite any questions that you may have, and go to a next level of analogy, which is a dream analogy, in the next class. But before I do that, just to connect it to Bhagavad Gita, because as I mentioned to you that I was really just talking about in conceptual terms. That's all the time that I have. I don't have the time to really go through each verses and chapters and so on. We'll hope to do that sometime later. Nevertheless, to connect these concepts to the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna is telling Arjuna with the start of the real teaching, which is the 11th verses, which I mentioned last time, that he allows Arjuna to go on and wail and say, my life is very difficult and I don't want to fight and I've got a lot of problems and I refuse to do this, and he's very sincere, he's very emotional, and Krishna just has a smile on his face. So yes, anything else? He goes on and on. Then he admonishes him and says, stupid, what you're talking about is stupidity. Arjuna, not the way it is. And then he goes to tell him. And this analogy will be a little clearer when we go into the next, this teaching, not analogy, but this teaching will be a little clearer when we go into the dream analogy. Nevertheless, let me just give you a quick link. So, really speaking, what Krishna is saying, you are talking about the appliances, Arjuna. I am talking about the electricity. You are the electricity, not the appliance. You think you are the appliance and you're going to, as one appliance, you are attacking another appliance and you're worried about yourself and you're worried about killing everybody else. No one can kill the electricity. Don't you understand? You are not the appliance, you are the electricity. This is the crux of the Bhagavad Gita's teaching. That's how it unfolds. And the rest of it is exactly the same in our life, which is that Arjuna scratches his heart and says, really? I don't get it. How can that be? And Krishna keeps on saying, yes, I'm telling you the truth. I'm not selling you a bunch of things. I have no agenda. This is the way it is. Think about it. How do I think about it? Because I can't think about it this way. So there's arguments and counter-arguments and doubts and all of those kinds of things that constitutes the dialogue between Arjuna and Krishna. But the essence of it is the viveka between Atma and Anatma. This is the fundamental aspect of it. So with that, I'll close the class, and we will, again, I think I'm remiss in not giving you the details of the ending prayers. I will also try to do that soon, and then I'll ask for any questions that you have, and then close the class off. Om asato ma satgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityo ma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnamevavashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay. Any questions?
Well, could you relate the concept of Purusha and Prakriti to Atman and Anma?
So that is really the same. The electricity, Atma is the Purusha, and Anatma is the Prakriti. Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
We're talking about Annamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha is the material part of, because Atma is also Ananda.
So the question is that we talked about the word kosha, so which we haven't really explained. But anyway, the kosha means in this way the expression of electricity. Just to go back to the same thing, an expression of the electricity that you can see the application of electricity in a given form. That's what the kosha word kosha is. So his question is that we talked about the Anandamaya kosha, and is it not the same as the Atma, which is Ananda? So no, it is called Anandamaya kosha because it is reflected Ananda. It's not the original Ananda. And even though the reflected Ananda can be like the original Ananda, like any reflection in a good mirror can reflect you just the way you are, but there's a huge difference because the reflection is also endowed with all of the issues. It is not vulnerable, it is very vulnerable, it has a beginning and an end, all of those kinds of things. So the Anandamaya kosha has all those limitations, whereas the Atma, which is Ananda, does not.
And what happens to Atma when there is no more prana?
Nothing happens to the Atma. That's exactly right.
Right.
Question is, what happens to the Atma when there is no more prana? So the prana is only useful for the expression of the Atma in a human being. You are not the human being. You are the whole universe. You are the very essence of I am. So the I am is not disturbed by I am no longer alive. That no longer disturbs you. This is a good question, and we will do into this.
We are still difficulty considering.
Yeah. That's exactly what needs to be done. So we'll go into that.
Two more.
Sure. Sorry.
After
Okay. Ashok, yeah.
Can you please explain gross body versus subtle body?
So there it is. This is called Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira. So the elements are the same. The basic element. This is all given in the textbook called Tattva Bodha, which I think I'm going to tell you about that in more detail. It's all given in great detail. But just to answer your question, the gross body are the same elements done in a gross form, and the subtle, which is the mind, which is the software, are the same elements, which is Akasha, Vayu, Prithvi. These are the five basic elements that constitute the entire world. The same elements in a subtle form becomes the software, which is the body, which is the mind, etc. That's how the two differences are. You had a question?
So, as going by the analogy of appliance and electricity,
Right.
right? Will ever appliance decipher what electricity is, or just like our body, right? Will the mind have the capacity to understand Atma, or is there any other means we should follow?
So, very good question. The question is that the mind is also part of the anatma, which is the which is matter. But can the mind be capable of understanding the electricity? Can matter understand electricity? And the answer is yes. The reason for that is this is something we'll dwell on later on, that the Atma doesn't need to be proven. You see, it doesn't need to be proven. What it needs is the false covering of it needs to be removed. So the mind, being the matter, its job is to figure out that I am false. And the Atma reveals itself. It doesn't need to be proven. It is called Swatasiddha, not Parasiddha. Swayambhuhu. The word Swayambhuhu is used means that it exists by itself. And it knows itself by itself. But at the moment, the mind is covering it as though it says, I am the reflection, I am the one, the real one. When the mind understands that I am a mere reflection, this is where the job of the mind is. When it says that I am the mere reflection, then the original doesn't need to prove itself. It is already there. So this is a concept that we'll have to discuss it more, but that's the answer to your.
Quick follow-up.
Yeah.
So I was thinking mind needs to find the obstacles and remove them, but you just said mind itself is an obstacle.
Mind itself is an obstacle. In fact, this is a very important analysis that we will see later on. One of my real obstacles in life is, our obstacles in life is cleaning up our mind forever. And any time, so this is a very important thing, which is an advanced topic, and we will cover it at some point. One of our biggest problems is that we are so convinced that mind needs to reform itself that we keep on waiting for it to reform itself, and it never will be. So the mind needs to be reformed enough to say that I am just a poor reflection, you are the real one. From that point on, it doesn't matter what the mind does. If the reflection breaks and disappears, I'm not bothered by that. Something like that. So this we will see that in more detail. So you had some more questions.
It is beginningless and endless.
Correct.
Is it same as Ananta then?
Yeah, so the question is, the word beginningless and the endless, is it the same as anantaram? Yes. Anantaram. Is English word, is Sanskrit word anantaram means. There is no.
Space